think nowadays, everyone is in this constant instant world. They want results yesterday, and they're not willing to put in the work. If I'm happy, I'll train. If I'm sad, I'll train. You know, if I'm just average on the day, I train. For me, it would be just having a bigger vision of what you want in life. Where do you need to be a good father, a good husband, a good role model? And if you can instill those values at your highest level within yourself, if you just think about that, then that's hopefully over time going to distill that discipline into you.
Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator. Today we speak with Chris Rigby. Chris is an expert in physical fitness and the creator and owner of Rig Training Programs. He's dedicated his life to strength and conditioning and inspiring others to achieve more than they ever thought possible. Hi, Chris, and welcome to Common Denominator.
Thanks for having me.
So I know you basically spend most of your waking hours in the physical fitness space. Why do you think, for people nowadays, why is it so important today for you?
I'll kind of go back to the start. I'm 41 now, and probably it's been a huge part of my life from forever. You know, I grew up on a farm, so it was just physical labor and physical fitness in a way without knowing, I guess. So that was like instilled in me from a young age. From baling the hay in the field to looking after the horses and the cows. So I've always been very physical. And I think I'm looking back, at the time when I was growing up, you don't feel as privileged to have had that upbringing. But looking back now, especially the state of society, I think that laid good foundations for me to be very active and knowing what your body can do without realizing it at the time, you know. But I think nowadays, everyone is in this constant instant world. They want results yesterday, and they're not willing to put in the work. So heightening everyone's awareness of how lucky we are as humans to have an active, healthy body, I think is paramount to longevity. And kind of trying to spread that message to people that they're in it for the long game, that the journey never ends.
What would you say if someone's seeing, like, a lot of youth nowadays, right? Just like we see everything that's going on social media, and we want to, have those immediate results, whether it's a physically fit body, money, fame. What is something to kind of keep in mind, to dial that back, to try to tell people, that it doesn't come automatically?
I have one philosophy and one ethic that I always try and tell people who I work with or anyone who I even chat to this about. We are so blessed to be on this earth and have a body. We get one chance and we get one life. That's it. There's no second chances. There's no rewinding back time. There's no, I wish I had done this, but now you can't because you didn't do it. So it's all about honoring what we've been given as people. And that's my motivation. That's my biggest driving force. And I think a lot of people use absolutely so many excuses. They'll use everything as an excuse. Their wife, their kids, their work, I haven't got time, the food, everything's an excuse now. And I think once you remove some of the barriers that people put in place, it's a lot of subconscious barriers, and then they fall into this kind of like mundane rut where they're just repeating habits that are a bit detrimental to themselves. I think it's really trying to remove some of those barriers and make it easier for people and relative to them to then overcome mental barriers they put in place themselves to envisage and see what their bigger picture is personally.
You mentioned about longevity, and I know it's a big topic, anti-aging, longevity. Nowadays, it's top of mind for a lot of people. I'll be 45 in a few months. And the past 14 months, I had I had gotten COVID 4 times, unfortunately, and then I had some inflammation in my heart. So for a few months, it was a little tough for me to breathe. And then I had a herniated disc in my neck, and I felt my mind started playing tricks on me, where it was kind of like, okay, this is chronic type of situation. And the amount of, I just took out west, I just went snowboarding with some of my older kids, and coming down the mountain, because I never thought I'd be able to do that again. Kind of coming down the mountain, and you see the sun, and you got your music, and you're able to do things like that. And I have 11 children. You mentioned about the kids, right? Like how, like just physical fitness and healthy eating and mindset. Because again, to your point, you only live one time. And I experienced that. These 14 months, I experienced that. And I've been making excuses. I'm supposed to be training for my black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I've been making excuses. Like you said, right? Everybody makes all these excuses. And I was just driving here today, and I'm thinking, I'm ready. My mind is ready, because the universe puts you in the place that you need to be.
Yeah, definitely.
But I know that it's not just, right? It's not just the gym. There's so many things that I need to do now, and I'm making that commitment over the next 12 months to be at least ready. I don't know if I'll pass the test, but I'm going to be doing the work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's it. And if you're not putting that at the paramount, at the forefront of what your vision is, I don't know what else goes in its place. You know, if you've made the choice to become a father, you've got a role to fulfill. You know, if you've made the choice to become a husband, because it's all about choices. We didn't have to marry that woman. We didn't have to have those children. You know, you've got a role. And that role is to be a provider, to be a protector, to be a role model, to lead by example. We want our children to be better than us. We want them to know more than us. We want them to be stronger, faster, more intelligent. That's our job. And I think through living a healthy lifestyle and putting certain elements in place, we can definitely do that. And again, going back to kind of the way I try and deliver things with people who I work with, it's making it relevant to them, but it's also really making it really simple. You know, so if I'm giving them 6 or 7 workout sessions and they're just starting in the gym for the first time in 12 months and giving them this strict diet, they're going to fail, you know? So we ask the questions, or we try and ask the questions of, okay, what can you commit to? Let's take that off for the next 3 weeks. And then we'll add a bit more in, you know, what were the problems or the issues? And I love the fact that you do jiu-jitsu as well. I started jiu-jitsu December 2023 and got my blue belt. And that for me is the cool shit. You know, I needed at 40 years old, I wanted I was 39 when I started jiu-jitsu. I wish I'd started many years before, but it was a way for me to avenue my strength and my fitness in a different path, you know, to use what I've got as a physical man to then say, all right, what other cool stuff can I do? You know, and I went back to the drawing board. You know exactly how it is.
I do.
And going into a jiu-jitsu club with people who've been there years, you feel like the kid at school again. I have so much to learn, and the path in jiu-jitsu is a very good teacher to be like humbled every single day, you know, and it's fitting. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing as well. And I try and encourage people to do the cool stuff to then avenue your fitness, because then it doesn't become fitness anymore. You're just enjoying yourself. And again, this is the relative. Yeah.
I love that about that humility. I know I was really under the weather, and it was my brown belt test, and I had to face, I didn't even know I was being tested, but probably a guy about your size, Russian guy. And I love that all I did is I listened at his breathing. My head was against his heart, and I heard the heart pounding.
Yeah.
And then you know where it kicks in. And that's years and years of undoing, right? A guy your size is like, okay, I got this piece of cake, and you get humbled because it has nothing to do with your strength.
Yeah.
To the opposite.
Yeah.
You're actually supposed to be in flow. So I get that. I get that, that learning. And if we're lifelong learners, it is a great place to learn and be back in school.
Yeah. And as well, especially jiu-jitsu and even any martial art, the killers look like the average guy on the street. Thankfully, when I went into jiu-jitsu, I was fit and I could overcome a lot of because strength gets you so far. The fitness gets you further, and it allowed me to basically, I would say, excel pretty quick because of the fitness that I had and the strength that I had, but also the previous years of CrossFit and soccer that I've had to be able to be agile enough, mobile enough, and strong enough to put it together. But then it's the brain trying to work at the same time. And I was defeating some blue belts often, and even some purple belts just based on kind of quickness, speed, and fitness, where exactly you're right. You can be a bit more active in a role, knowing that person's going to gas out a bit quicker. And when you're gassed out, your brain stops working.
Yeah.
Your brain slows down. You can't think
That's
very
right.
well when you're getting gassed. But to the point is just, again, I'll always try and encourage people to avenue their fitness in some direction to then create a bubble around it where it's enjoyable. Instead of just, if people hate the gym, give them a sport to kind of train for. Give them a vision that they can then accomplish and achieve and feel good about themselves. And whether that be jiu-jitsu, because also as well, there's something amazing just rolling about with people and getting choked out. That's just part and parcel of it.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I learned more from, I think last year I did 6 jiu-jitsu comps last year, maybe 6 or 7. And the first competition I did, I was 3 months in. And it was called Submission Series, a big fight kind of thing we got going up here. And it was on stage in front of 1,000 people, maybe 1,500 people. That was my first experience of a jiu-jitsu competition. But I was like, yeah, throw me in, I got beat in the match, but I learned from that.
You reminded me, when you were talking about the guy on the street. I have a business partner that was in the Mossad. After World War II, he's about 80 years old now, and after World War II, he was actually the ones that went and found the war criminals. So there's people that do strategy.
Yeah.
He was actually the one that captured war criminals and brought them back to The Hague for trial. And he looks like and he acts like the sweetest, nicest guy ever, right? Like a complete split in the brain. And I'm like, I always admired that. To your point, it's like, it's always that you never know anything.
Yeah. And I was just going to say as well, with especially jiu-jitsu, because it's been talked about a lot by especially Joe Rogan, making it massive as well, and people kind of getting into it. But it's just if you're even a white belt with 6 or 8 months or 12 months under your belt, you're going to be able to handle 99% of people on the street if you ever get in a situation. And what I love about being able to do that and having that as a physical attribute is not just the defense side, but it's being confident within yourself that, again, you can be that provider and protector to, just know if you're out and something happens, it's just having that silent confidence within yourself that you can handle it or make a difference in some kind of situation.
And I'll tell you something. I'll tell you this, it's only now, I've been training for 14 years, and only this year, it's funny that you were explaining that only a year or 2 of training, you can handle 99%. I wouldn't have a knowledge within myself. I would muscle memory react.
Yes. Yeah.
But only this year did I have that knowledge where I'm like, okay, if there's a situation, I can actually handle it. It took me 13 years to be able to realize that.
Yeah. This is the humility of doing something and learning a martial art that I thought I was good. I did a bit of boxing when I was younger. I did a bit of grappling with my friends, but I didn't go to jiu-jitsu. So I thought I was good before I started. And then you realize when you get there and you're like, oh no, if I came up against any of these guys who have got like 6, 12, 18, 2 years, 3 years under the belt, you're gone. Like the person on the streets, you'd have no chance. So then me understanding that and then kind of being humble and kind of going, shit, I need to up my level, and then getting that training and experience and the roles and the skills under your belt. And then you realize how, I would say, ineffective you probably have been in the past if you come up against some situation, if that makes sense. So if a lot of guys, the big mouth guys always at the bar or out, they're the people who often the ones that you shouldn't be ever scared of. It's the ones who don't talk and ones who want to talk, basically, talk themselves out with a lot of things. Because at 21 years old, I joined the police force. So I've always had it in me to be some kind of, I'll say the cliche thing. I joined the police force to make a difference. It took me about seven. I did 7.5 years in the police force in the UK, and I realized I couldn't make the difference I wanted to do. So I left. That's the long story short. But, and that's with the system and everything, you're just a number at the end of the day. That's how I felt when I left. So I made a big decision in my life to leave, and it was probably the best decision I ever made. But, whilst I was in the police force, I wish I'd had the skills that I have now to utilize if I ever come across anything back then,
And I know also you have a sports science degree, and I always wondered about that. Like, it's like, oh, you're going to school to learn about sports and how to train. What would you say is the top, like, 2 or 3 things? Like, if someone's thinking about getting that degree, what are the top 2 or 3 things that you've learned in school? Because it seems like kind of scientific.
Yeah, kind of, to kind of contradict it slightly, I felt like I learned more afterwards from doing my different coaching courses in different disciplines when I was in my later 20s. I felt like I learned more through within coaching, within fitness, and actively putting it into practice, and being able to see results, not just in myself, but other people. So I think when I was going through that, to look back now, I probably wasn't aware of what it truly meant, if that kind of makes any sense. You just go through the motions a little bit, like everyone does. If they're studying, you're like, oh, I've just got an exam or I've got this paper to write. So you just do it. And a lot of it was based on quantitative, qualitative data. So you're looking at recordings and you're looking at the human body and the anatomy. I think it does give you a deeper understanding of human body, and then being able to record and quantify things into actual statistics and data. Unless you're going truly into a field of sports science where you're measuring that for a longer period of time over different athletes or disciplines, I would probably say I don't really use much of what I learned, but it gave me
It's interesting.
Yeah, it gave me a deeper understanding obviously of the human body, basically, I would say, on all levels.
But it's interesting because I have that discussion all the time with my oldest is almost 19 and 17. We talk a lot about, he just got into law school, he's going to go to business school, but we talk about, it's actually both in society, just in general about schools. You got to learn, you got to have school, but you also have to get out there, network, and street smarts to meet people in the things that you want to do. Because like you're saying, when you were out there, you learn. That's how you learn. Everyone learns differently.
Yeah.
Right. Some people, I know a lot of people that get straight A's in school, and then they go in society, and it's hard for them because the real life is a little bit different than the school environment.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it depends on the person, how we are as learners and how we develop as people. But I think I would always say I've probably been a pretty street smart kid and adult. And when you speak to a lot of society, you realize how unaware they are of a lot of things, even just common sense practices. And it's a bit sad sometimes. And my daughter's 16 years old, and I and probably me and you and people our age are the first or the last generation who never got influenced through social media to grow up. You know, Facebook, Instagram didn't exist when I was at school. It didn't exist when you were at school. And I've seen the impact it's had on my daughter in terms of not she's totally fine and she's very got her head screwed on and everything. But I think that from 12 to 15, the impact it's had on her social development in terms of friendships, you know, relationships, all these chat groups on Snapchat and then all the TikTok things. And I think one of the biggest problems through social media now is someone can watch a 15-second video and get a piece of information and believe it, you know, and kids are just receptive and sponges to that. So they'll, even adults. I went for my birthday. My birthday was like 3 weeks ago. Went out with one of my friends.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Went out for a night out with two of my friends, and both of them are still in the police force. And one of my friends, I didn't realize how. I even said to him, I said, all he was talking about was TikTok stuff, you know. And I'm like, where did you get this information from? He's like, TikTok. I'm like, bro, like, where from? Like, what's your source? Like, and he doesn't know. He just seen a video, so he thinks it's true. And this is like a 40-year-old man. You know, so you spread that out to a very intelligent police officer of 20 years, 40-year-old man saying, yeah, I learned this. He was telling me bread clogs you up, you know, or don't eat bread. It clogs your body up. I'm like, well, I probably eat 6 slices of toast a day. I'm like, does it clog me up? I'm like, what does that even mean? You know, it's stupid things like that where our research now or our forms of education on social media are just so distorted of the truth because it's all clickbait. You know, it's who can put the biggest hook on there, who can, and it's messed up a lot of people's vision of health and fitness and results, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And you talk about like common sense or like critical thinking. I tell my kids, ask anyone you come in contact that gives you information, who said so and why.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that the case? Where is it coming from? A lot of society is run behind you peel back the layers of establishment things. It's money and it's power, right? And when you begin to understand that they have teams of psychologists and all the social media influencers and figure out how ways to influence their influencers, how to influence and to convince mass amount of people to do certain things. And it's layer after layer of that. And our greatest thing that we have as humans is our brain. And we have to keep our brain open to, and our body for that matter, right?
Yeah.
Our brain and our body, keep it open and strong to ask questions and be independent thinkers.
100%. I can get, I'll say mistaken. Some people will say I'm argumentative, right? But I would say to a point I probably am, but at the same time, I enjoy arguing, you know, but I'll call it a debate instead. But I'll always, if someone, exactly what you said, if somebody tells me a piece of information like that, like exactly like my friend, I'll challenge it all the time if I don't agree or if I don't know. So I'll challenge it. I'll say, where's that from? Where did you get it from? How did you hear about it? Like, give me some examples. And 9 times out of 10, people can't, you know, so you probably realize they've heard it on social media or they've heard it off the cuff somewhere or read it in an article. But there's no truth behind it. And I'll always do that. And I guess that's a trait that I've got where I like to challenge, you know, I like to ask. And a lot of people, because they haven't got the information to back it up, then think, oh, that person's being a dick or they're being argumentative. I'm like, no, if you're going to say something, either know what you're talking about or don't say it at all. That's a big thing for me, especially when it comes to supplements, food, training. Oh, the best way to lose body fat, the best way to, do I have to fast when I do cardio? All of these crazy things. And yeah, it's good to challenge. I always make sure people are aware.
But by the way, I'll tell you, I know whether in physical fitness and business, and I just want to get your take on this. You talk about consistency. Everybody, it's an easy word, right? And that is the recipe, to be consistent on your goals. My thing is, what is a way? Your brain tells you, okay, make up excuses and all these things. And they say, and the winners, the guys that actually win with results, are the ones that ignore. If they feel like crap one day, they ignore it, or better or good. They're just showing up every single day. What is a hack? What is some sort of way that people can truly, that you've seen, that actually works, be more consistent?
Yeah, I think for me, it would be just having a bigger vision of what you want in life. Where do you need to be a good father, a good husband, a good role model? And if you can instill those values at your highest level within yourself, I think when you feel a bit down, you feel a bit rubbish, you feel a bit tired, if you just think about that, then that's hopefully over time going to distill that discipline into you, that there's no other choice. Again, I speak to clients about this. If I'm happy, I'll train. If I'm sad, I'll train. If I'm just average on the day, I train. And you'll never regret doing something physical. That's the other side of it as well. Like if you feel down or a bit rubbish and you didn't want to go to the gym, and I'm not always motivated to go to the gym. Today I've been already, but I wasn't really motivated today to go. Did I need to go? No. Did I want to go? No, I wasn't too bothered today, but I went and did an hour and a half of a really, really good, powerful session. And when I left, I felt better. And again, it's teaching people and getting people to understand that. So if we can remove a few of the stereotype kind of boundaries, but give people a bigger vision of what they want in their life, I think it can fix a little bit of that, like making sure they're a bit more consistent, a bit more disciplined to what they want. Yeah.
Well, I definitely appreciate that, because that really resonates a lot. And I want to say thank you, Chris. This has been a great conversation, and hopefully we'll continue to help people be physically fit, eat right, sleep right, get in the right mindset. How can people either train with you, follow you on social, and learn more about you?
So I'm mainly on Instagram. My Instagram is Fitness by Rigby. If you want to train with me, I've got a few different options. Got monthly programs you can jump onto, or you can work with me on a closer basis in one-to-one coaching, where we look at kind of everything and going into lifestyle habits and routines and creating a bespoke program for you. Most of the people I work with and people who reach out to me, I think I try and set an example on my social media where I'm a bit no bullshit. I don't really take the excuses. And if people need that kind of kick, and to be told directly a little bit sometimes, then I'm probably the guy for you, to put it that way. I don't cuddle people, if that makes sense, because you need to want it. And the people who get the best results with me and with any coach want it for themselves. But it is part of my job to make sure you understand that and get you to have a good mindset to drive that. And that all comes back to, you're here one time, you get one life, you get one body, and then really instilling the values of being a good father, of being a good friend, being a good husband, all of those things. So if we can just try and really feel our values and understand them a bit deeper, then I think it'll solve a lot of problems, instead of just this instant gratification kind of give me a six-pack in 8 weeks instead. which is nothing wrong with that. I've got a summer shred program coming out. If you want to jump on that and get a 6-pack in 8 weeks, I could hopefully help you get there as well. So it's the cool stuff mixed with the bigger picture, that kind of longevity vision. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you. It's really been great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Chris. If you haven't already, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribing ensures you never miss an episode, and it helps us continue to bring you meaningful conversations that make a difference. Thank you for being part of our growing community. We couldn't do this without you. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon.